These restrictions will not only affect the traveling public, but also the people who look after them in hotels and inns, as you just heard there. Joe Baker is the managing editor of the Canadian Lodging News. He joins me now. So, Joe, how well prepared are hotel and motel workers to deal with this, to all of a sudden, be working in an isolation or quarantine hotel scenario?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. I think this is a bit of a good news story for all of those hotel operators who've been investing lots of money in PPE and investing in training for their employees. As frontline workers, they've been experiencing the challenges that have come with this pandemic, but at the same time, they've been spending a lot of time preparing for these kinds of situations.
So what would an airport hotel, for example, do to make it safe for the staff and guests?
Well, right away, they've already been investing in things like plexiglass shields at front desks. They've also been putting in place cleanliness standards, more social distance integration into their service promise, and then, of course, spacing out guests throughout the hotels. It's not like it was pre-pandemic when every single room in a hotel would even be sold or on the market. Operators are doing their best to keep everybody as distanced as possible and as safe as possible.
But it does make kind of hotel staff, they may be involved in some either precarious work or, low paid work. And now they're kind of in a situation that, they're working in something that maybe they don't want to work in, can you give us a sense about how they would feel about that,
Absolutely. And this absolutely affects a lot of people. Before the pandemic, at about 2019, there were almost 2 million Canadians who worked in the tourism sector broadly across the country. And right now we're down about 20% in 2020. So there are hundreds of thousands of people who have been affected by this pandemic. At the same time, those that are working, very much like those that are working in our healthcare system and in the front lines of retail, places like grocery stores, are doing a really good job of learning on the job, of following safety standards and procedures, and the employers who are being responsible with them, helping them ultimately deliver on what they're there to do in as safe an environment as possible. They're well prepared. They knew that this was coming, and quite frankly, dealing with this pandemic and dealing with health and safety standards is going to become a natural part of the service industry for many years to come. So I think it's something that people will ultimately have to get used to, and I know that there are organizations out there that are committed to making that happen.
I don't know whether you've seen any of the details or whether we know the specific details, but can you imagine what, like how would they serve them the meals? Would they security escort them for a walk outside? Is there anything like that? Do we know any of those details yet about how exactly it will work for the people staying in these isolation hotels and for the staff that have to kind of deal with them?
Yeah, you're exactly right. We haven't seen very many details. I think that the announcement comes as a bit of a surprise to some of the operators, and they will be eager to get their hands on those details. But like I said, at the same time, from a security perspective, from a cleanliness perspective, from a service perspective, they're already prepared for this. And so many of these hotels are in a limited capacity anyway. If you've been staying in a hotel, it's not the same experience that you were having before the pandemic. Restaurants have been closed, in-room dining has been limited, valet parking. There just isn't the interaction that there was before COVID-19 hit. But at the same time, I believe that the hotel operators are well prepared to handle this.
What do you make of the cost? At least $2,000 for 3 nights. And again, these are not luxury hotels that people are going to be staying at. What do you make of the costs and why those costs would be that high?
Right, and clearly those costs are in place to deter non-essential travelers, and I think that that's the most important message here. If you don't have to go anywhere, don't. Stay home as best as possible. And for those who do and are making those choices, at the end of the day, that's a pretty big financial burden to bear to stay in a hotel to quarantine. But at the same time, health and safety remains a priority for the industry, but also for the public.
All right, Joe, thank you. Joe Baker covers the Canadian hospitality industry.